So where did you grow up?
Oak Cliff.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
right here, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, I was just little blocks from.
And you were kind of exposed to boogie woogie music early on, right?
My dad was a.
That was me.
Oh, okay. I was tracking a song last night, and I heard this little. There was a little girl, one of the players, a little girl sitting on the couch over there, and she had a little iPad, and we're cutting this Latino music, and it was going really nice and smooth. All of a sudden, I was hearing beep 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 beep. I'm going, oh, is that on the tape?
That's called a remix.
I got RF in here or whatever. I just, I kind of, and then of course, when we stopped the track, and I go,
yes,
a little cutie over there, and she's just.
I apologize for that. It won't be in the episode. It'll be pulled out. So,
Oh.
so yeah, you were kind of exposed to boogie woogie music early on. Right?
My dad was he was playing guitar in the 30s and played a little piano, and I mean this story just goes like. He got a call from a buddy in Fort Worth, and he says, "Man, there's a band over here. It's Bob Wills and these guys over there, and they're looking for some players. You want to come over?" And he said, "They're all standing in line."
This is your dad.
My dad.
Okay.
And I tried to find a few people that could fill this story in, but basically they were looking for a piano player, and the piano players just couldn't play with Wills. They had a problem, and I kind of asked my dad one time, and I said, "Pops, why do you play on the black keys?" My sister was taking piano lessons. I'm watching her playing on all the white keys, and he looked at me. He says, "Damn fiddle players," because they all most of them playing B flat. And so my dad, after everybody had run the whole circuit and everybody was getting ready to start tearing down. And they looked up at Dad and his buddy. He said, "Well, what do you play? Are you here to play?" He said, "Well, I play guitar, but you mind if I try the piano?" And it was just kind of that loosey-goosey on piano that as soon as he started playing with them, they were going, "Oh, we got him."
Yeah.
And gosh, I'm trying to remember exactly the year and time, but it was when Wills was moving to Tulsa.
Okay.
For what was it, King Biscuit or whatever, the big broadcast that was going to Chicago and all that.
Right.
And he just started seeing my mom, and he said, "Tulsa? Nah, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And he had no idea of what could come out of or whatever, but he had met my mom, and he was seriously in love, and
I have
what
a very similar story.
Yeah.
The young lady sitting over there that I'm married to, her father played steel with Bob Wills. And very similar reasons for not going on tour with him. He didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad was, his name was Arthur John Middleton, and everybody called him AJ, and that was how I kind of tracked it. He said, "Oh, man, I remember this guy, a piano player named AJ." Mm-hmm. Yeah, my dad was just, he was just like another lovable
names,
guy.
Right? Almost like street names.
Oh, it is, but we lived where I was born, was on Yarmouth Street, right off of Zanes Boulevard.
Okay.
They've got some business building there before they built the freeway through. Mm-hmm. And my dad was courting my mother by sitting out on the front porch of those old 1920 houses, listening to the radio and listening to Little Brown Jug.
That's awesome.
And so when I was about 5 or 6 years old, Dad, we had a spinet piano in the front room. And in the front room of the Middleton house, it stayed spotless. Mom and Dad played bridge from time to time, so they always kept it where we never came in the front door. We came in through the den or out of the backyard. But the spinet was in there, and every once in a while, Dad would just kind of get melancholy after dinner, after working a long time, and it was one of these sliding wooden doors that went into the wall type thing. And I heard the door, and I looked down the hall, and there was Dad sneaking off in there to start playing. And this time I could hear him playing in there a little bit, and I was just really, I want to go in there. And so I went up there and slid the door open, and slid down the wall, trying to not, break the moment. And he played the same thing. He just played this one song, and that's all he ever played. and it was do 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 and he'd just play it over and over again. And that one time I finally looked at Dad when he finished looking over at me. I said, "Pops, what is that?" And he just kind of grinned at me. He says, "That's the boogie, son. Don't let it get you." And then he looked at me. He says, "I think you're too late."
Yeah.
Because he knew I just sat there. And to tie this whole story together, as far as me being a bass player, before I met Black Horse and everything, I was a guitar player. And I had an old J45 that my dad gave me on my 18th birthday for graduation and my birthday.
Okay.
And so we looked around, and I found a guitar, close to what I was looking for, but out of the newspaper. And it was a 1956 J45 with the tobacco sunburst, like the Kingston Trio.
Yeah.
And we got it for $75. And it wasn't until I almost sold it a few years ago because I was really needing some money. And a buddy of mine was going to buy it, Bubba Keith. And as soon as I let him have it, and I sit there and got to thinking about it and everything, and I sat right here, and I just, tears just came to me. I said, "That's what gave me this life." Was that J45. I wanted a banjo.
You still have it?
Yeah. It's right in there.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Because Bubba said, ask him about the guitar.
Yeah. Because I called him up, "I got to get it back, Bub." I said, "This, my dad, my family, everything came out of this guitar."
So your sister played piano. Your dad was a musician somewhat as well.
Yeah.
And so was it just you and your sister as siblings?
Well,
was there more than that?
My older brother played, I think, saxophone in high school.
So it's everywhere.
And my next oldest brother played trumpet for a year or so in the high school band. I mean, music was around us all the time.
It sounds like music brought a lot of joy to your family back in those days.
It really did.
Yeah.
It really did. And when I got to record my dad over at Buford's studio one day, I went over and picked Pop up and said, "Hey, you want to go running around town?" And he loved to do stuff down what they used to call the auto aisle down on Ross.
Yeah.
I went down there when I was a kid with him, and old AJ was wheeling and dealing. At one time, we had 5 cars, 2 1952s, a 1953, and a 54, and then he bought a brand new 56 Crown Victoria, for him. And but 3 or 4 days later, I came back. We only had 2 cars again. He would go down there and buy a car, get a good price on it and everything. He said, "If I can make $50 off a car like this, that's good money." And so that's the kind of things he'd do on the side. He built ham radios that he would trade for boats, and
right.
I think that's where I got my real nature of just kind of letting things play out.
I think it's funny from your story too, reading a little bit about you, is you start off as a musician that's kind of handed down to you from your dad, and you said it yourself. It was too late. You'd already been infected by the music.
Oh, I mean, Little Richard came out, and Vance Domino. I was rocking.
Yeah, I love those influences too. That they are kind of colored music as well, because
it was mostly
shape you.
It was mostly R&B that was creating rock and roll all at the same time.
Right.
And it just had me. And the other major influence in the 2nd grade, I mean, most of my biggest influence in music personally came in the 2nd grade. I was late for school the day that they assigned us to a music class, and I walked in, and all the instruments were gone except a tuba and a trombone.
Oh boy!
And you had to carry your instruments home and everything. And I lived about 3 or 4 blocks from school.
So now logic starts getting into this. So
oh
you
boy!
the trombone, right?
I went, "Give me that trombone," because my buddy across the classroom was, he was holding up drumsticks, going,
"Yeah, well, the trombone.
This is what I got."
The trombone can double as a weapon as well.
Oh, my brothers hated it because whenever I started practicing, I started going. I mean, I had elephants running all over the house.
Oh my God, that's great.